Okay, it is 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm Brian Jenkins, and we're going to talk today about event marketing best practices. Some of us on the webinar may be a little out of practice. Some of us may be new. So the idea is we're going to share a presentation here that will hopefully give you some ideas on how you can best market your event. And a few housekeeping items. First of all, this is recorded. So if you aren't able to stay to the end, we will record this. Also, the slides that you see in this presentation, they will be put in and emailed out to you afterwards. So if you like the slides, you'll be able to have a copy of them as well. And then if you're in the process of watching this webinar live, you can enter into the GoToWebinar chat any questions that you have. We'll try to answer them if we can. And if they're particularly good questions or common questions, we will answer them at the end of the webinar. So we'll save the end for the Q&A process. So a little bit about, so we have 3 brands. So we have RunSignup, TicketSignup, and GiveSignup. So since 2010, when we started, we have helped customers generate $1.6 billion in sales. And as of May of 2022, we've worked with over 26,000 events per year. So our goal is to make it free and easy for small businesses and nonprofits to generate more revenue and grow their events and engage their attendees. So we make this through our free platform that is completely driven by processing fees. There's no setup fee, there's no monthly fee, there's no hidden fees at all. So a little bit about me. So I'm Brian Jenkins. I started working with events as a job back in 2009. I've worked with thousands of events and have done some pretty interesting strategies over the years to help with marketing events. And I try to use data to help me better understand how people respond best to different marketing techniques. So today, it seems like many of us are kind of having to start from scratch, even if it's with an existing event. So we're going to get back to the basics. We're going to talk about your digital presence. We're going to talk about pricing strategy. How do we raise awareness and expanding your engagement? So this is something that I think is really useful to do on a whiteboard or sketch this out. So we work with many different types of events. Some are really interesting and unique. And when you're building out a marketing plan, you want to talk about, why do people attend certain events? So we've kind of put some bubbles here that talk about some, not all, but some of the reasons why people might attend an event. So some it's shared experiences, some it's because they want to spend time with their friends and family. Some it's achievement or accountability. So why do I go out and train 3 times a week? Well, it's because I'm signing up for that event in 2 months, and I sure would like to do well. And also then contributes to health. Some of it's tradition. So some of the events that we work with have been around for, we work with one event that's been around over 100 years. So there's a big tradition there. Many of you may be raising money for a cause. There's some events that are truly adventurous, and then some people just do it out of the joy of the activity. So now you're going to start thinking about why should people register for your particular event. So there's a lot of interesting ideas that are on here, and I think many people have done some of these. So anniversary events, you'll see events get a boost just because it's their 10th anniversary or their 40th anniversary. And if you make it a big deal, it can be a big deal. You can have exclusive merchandise. People enjoy raising money for your cause. You can see some of these different options here. These are all options to think about and consider why someone might pick your race. So I think I skipped a couple slides. There we go. Okay. So the next step is now that you've thought about some of these items, so how do you build out your marketing plan? So you're going to define your why, what's important and unique about your race, why would people want to participate, and what is different about your event. You're going to create and or update your digital presence. That's something that's really important. We're going to dig into that a little bit later, but it's kind of, minding your P's and Q's. So it's just checking to make sure the dates are correct on your Facebook page, images are correct. And we're going to give you some specific examples of that, but it's just kind of flipping through and looking at, especially with events that may not have happened for a couple years, there's a lot of information out there about your event. So can you go and clean up some of that digital presence? So We're going to talk a little bit about how do you build awareness and excitement in your community. Probably the most important thing is creating a sense of urgency with pricing strategies. So, such as like, hey, price goes up June 1st. Those types of things tend to work extremely well because people are procrastinators. And then keeping connection and encouraging word of mouth. So one of the hardest things to do attribution from a marketing standpoint is how do you know that people are talking about your event? So we know through referrals, but we also know that many of the people that come to your event are encouraged by word of mouth. And then the last one is, especially right now, it is very difficult to confirm that your event is not conflicting with some prominent event. So if there's like a major parade going on or a major event that's like, going to pull 20, 30, 40,000 people, making sure that you're not in the same area on the same date. So drilling into brand. So why does brand matter? So it's how you create excitement about your event. So in my hometown of Richmond, Virginia, we have the Monument Avenue 10K. And so everybody's kind of excited to run up and down Monument Avenue. And so the online presence for that event, it's very recognizable. You can talk to just about anybody in the Richmond area and everybody kind of recognizes that brand. It also helps you build trust because they recognize the logo, they recognize the color scheme, they recognize the structure of your website because everything is kind of uniform. And finally, it's how you kind of stand out. And we've done a lot of discussions about just looking at your color schemes, your logos and images and language, and try to be consistent across every single different platform where your event is listed. So here's some branding basics. It's adding your event logo. That's kind of an obvious thing, but we have plenty of events that don't have logos. And your logo colors and your brand and website colors, they should be consistent and complementary. Some small events don't buy domains. We would highly recommend going to a service like GoDaddy or another domain reservation service and buying your own domain. And you can then map that domain to our system and then maintain that website year after year. One of the nice things is that if you map that to our system, is that your website's up 24/7, 365, and all you have to do is go in and update it or put custom messaging in there. And this allows you to keep the branding consistent year after year. And then you need to take those additional steps to make sure that your email, social media, and advertising use the same logo and use the same color scheme so that as people see this month after month, year after year, they're able to easily recognize your brand. So when you drill into your actual event website and registration page, is one of the best parts about events is that typically if you can get images taken, like pictures from, especially if they're professional, you've got great content for your website. So make sure you're incorporating images from your event. If you're a first-year event, I've had plenty of people that have staged photos. That's not a bad idea. If you have the ability to add an official race video, video is super helpful. It's something that kind of allows you to stand out. Videos do not have to be elaborate. They could be 30, 45 seconds, a minute, minute and a half. Probably under a minute and a half is plenty. Interactive course maps. So if your event is a competitive event, having a course map so people can see where the course is, the elevation, things like that, that's very important. Within our system, we allow you to add a countdown clock. That is something that people love. It kind of creates a little bit of urgency there, and it's automated, so you don't have to do anything. Sometimes events forget that, promoting your t-shirts and medals or any other swag that you have, that drives people to register. So I've had events that do t-shirt cutoffs and stuff, and there's all sorts of discussions around whether that's a valid idea or not. But certainly, if you get an image from your t-shirt provider, including that on your website and including that in your promotions, same with medals, that is a great way to get people excited about your event. Some of the other concepts is if there's large events in your area, find out how much it would be to have an expo booth there. If it's a large event, there's likely quite a bit of traffic that is coming through there, and it's great opportunities for you to be able to promote your event to people who might be interested in another event. Some of the other options that we encourage people is if you have volunteer information, you can add that to your page. Showcasing sponsors, can't encourage people enough. We have a nice sponsor module built into the platform that allows you to add your sponsors, add their logos, and add their websites, URLs. And finally, if you're doing price changes, make sure that it's front and center on your website. And we do have some tools inside the platform to actually automate the actual dates. Like it says, hey, the price is going up on June 1st, right on the homepage of your site. So some of the things to think about from your website is, are you testing your website on your phone? And also, if your friend has an Android device and you have an iPhone, test it on your both of your mobile devices. If you use a RunSignup page, we automatically do mobile detection and make the page nice and pretty on mobile. But we're seeing now 60% of all traffic from mobile devices. The next thing, and if you don't remember anything from this presentation, it has nothing to do with marketing. It's just a really good best practice, is register for your own event. And then pay close attention to how long does it take to register for your event. And depending on the type of event and the amount of money someone is investing in your event, the more money someone's investing, the more time they may be considering the registration process. So you want to balance, like, what information do I need in order to effectively market, and what information is kind of frivolous or extra that just bogs down the registration process and makes it so maybe somebody might abandon that process. And then going through and double checking, and this has been particularly difficult as people have been putting on events that have been on hold for a couple of years, is really double checking your dates, start times, sponsors, course maps, like all of that stuff could have changed over the hiatus that you may have had, or changes that you may have had. So then also promoting any event services. Are you doing live results? Are you offering photos? Do you offer training programs? Do you have partnerships with local businesses that participants can take advantage of, et cetera? So I mentioned a little bit about event video. If you have the ability to get a video put together, it really does differentiate your event, because not every event has a video. So if someone can learn about your event somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute and a half, depending on the complexity of it, and like how the event started, what's the purpose of the event, those things are really easy to convey in video. And if somebody's in that consideration phase, like, I'm thinking about buying this, it's a great way to kind of reinforce the things that you want to hammer home. Like, if you have the coolest metals in your area, point it out. If you guys have raised over $1 million in the history of the event, point that out. And then as you build that video out, make sure it's on your website, make sure it's on your social media, make sure you're linking and just talking about it on YouTube, Instagram, etc. So social media pages, again, this is something that Johanna on our team has helped me understand, is just like you and Charnel, is you have to take that banner image that you're using on your event website and put that same banner image and that same event logo and that same color scheme on your social media site, so that people see continuity between the two. So again, make sure your information is updated. There's an option to link to registration. So then if somebody wants to register, it takes them into the registration process. Make sure that you have some sort of schedule that you're following. So is your goal to post once a week? And if so, write out a schedule of posts that you want to do. Make sure that you're communicating any important information, such as changes or price changes, or changes within the event. The promoting price changes, this is just, think of this as just like an email or other types of communication blasts that the price is changing. And then people do expect you, if they're using Messenger or replying to posts, they are kind of expecting a response in a timely manner. So there are tools out there. One that I'm familiar with, but there's lots of them, is Hootsuite, but there's plenty of others that allow you to plug in your social media and easily respond through Instagram, through Facebook, maybe even Twitter now, if people were messaging on those platforms, so you could send them a quick message back. So pricing strategies, I'm gonna take a sip of water. So the most common pricing incentive is early price, normal price, late price, and event day price. That's generally how most people do events. I have to say that I have done other pricing strategies. this is the most reliably easy way to get people to kind of make a decision whether they're going to buy today or not. Some of the other options is family-based discounts or team-based discounts. So if you get 10 or more people on your team, you get a $5 refund for the first 10 registrations, and all future registrations are discounted. Age-based pricing, so you can offer discounts for kids or seniors, so that they can, feel like, hey, we're being accommodated too, that there's a discount for that. We also support multi-race discounts, so someone could sign up for your 5K in January and your 10K in February. So within team and relays, we actually have, and I mentioned the automated discounts. So what's really nice about that is teams are a very effective way to drive large groups. So you can use teams in different ways, such as if you have a team size, and I use the idea of 10. So what it means is that you get 10 or more people to register on your team, and you get a discount. So you can set multiple layers as well. So if you get to 20 or 30 or 50 team members, you can continue to incentivize discounts at that point. So here's some data on teams. So 30% of participants will join a team if offered. And so if your event offers relay teams, that may be something that's useful. Relay teams are a little bit different in that that's typically, we see a lot of success with relay teams with clubs or companies like corporations. They might like that. But the most effective marketing tool for teams is generally what I would call social teams. And so social teams, there was no competitive piece to it. It's generally some sort of marketing hook. So like I talked about the pricing options for teams, but then we also have, if you get 20 or more people, you get a free pair of socks. Or if you get 50 or more people, you get a pizza party. Or if you're the largest team, you get a trophy. There's different things like that. I've seen lots of people do different things, and we have a number of events that have a long history of success with teams. So it's something to consider if you have not done this and you feel like there's an opportunity for you to differentiate your event by doing team competitions. The one thing that I would say about team competitions is that if you get one team that outweighs everyone, meaning they have 120 people on their team, and the next team has 30, that second place team knows they're not going to win. So I do try to encourage people to think about like threshold. So like if you get above this number, you're getting something. So within the RunSignup platform and within all of our platforms, we have a referral discount program. And so referrals are a great way to monetize word of mouth. So we know people are talking about our event. How do we incentivize them to do that, and how do we measure that? So when you check out for an event on our platform, we automatically kind of gray out the screen. We show people the options to share via Facebook, Twitter, or email. And then we put a unique tracking link in that share. So the participant does not have to do anything except for hit share. And when they click on that link, we automatically track that they've clicked on that link. And if they convert within 30 days, we give the original participant who shared credit for that. So here's some information about referrals, is that in 2021, for all of our transactions, 8% of all transactions came from referrals. We have some events that have very aggressive referral programs, and we've seen as high as 25% of transactions come from referrals. And so we've got this dollar amount over here. So one of the biggest concerns about referrals is like, well, what does it cost? Well, our average was $1.40 per acquisition. So it's CPA, which is cost per acquisition. So what that means is that it costs an event who did referrals $1.40 to acquire that participant. That's pretty good, and it's pretty scalable. So talking about referrals, we're just going to give you some examples here. If someone is excited enough about your event that they're socially sharing and they actually engage in the referral program, that's great. Because now they're talking to people who are likely, friends or families of them that they have some connection to, who might want to join them, and they're incentivized to try to get their friends to come out to the event. So here's an example is refer 5 friends and receive a $25 refund. And that sometimes gives people concern. It's like, well, it's actually really difficult to refer 5 friends. And most people will only hit between 1 and 3. So if they really do refer 5, it's pretty valuable. Another example is you can continue to tier the referral rewards. So if you don't have any more tiers beyond 5, if someone's really out there moving, talking in their community about your event, you may want to offer additional incentives such as referring 10 friends, referring 20 friends, etc. So they can get a hat. They could get access to the VIP tent. You can be really creative with this. I generally have not seen a lot of people get above 10 referrals, but it does happen sometimes. And most importantly, if you're doing this, this needs to be communicated on your website. This needs to be communicated in your confirmation emails as well. So people ask us, how do we set this up? So inside the system, it's a really quick setup of going in to our promotion section, referrals, and then setting the rewards. And the hardest part is actually thinking about what's your threshold. We generally recommend a threshold between 3 to 5 registrations or tickets, and we recommend a reward of at least $15 or more. So these are difficult, but not impossible. So here's some examples of referral setup. So refer 5 friends and receive a $25 refund off your registration fee. Refer 10 friends, receive an exclusive Run for the Dogs t-shirt. Refer 20 friends and receive a tote bag. And this would be right on their website, easy for potential participants and existing participants to see. Here's a couple other examples. So this is at a zoo. So they're giving discounts to their gift shop. They're, I don't know what the one plush is, but anyways, and then you got tickets to for Adults Night Out, Summer Wine Festival, etc. So if you actually own a venue and you have other options, this is how the referral program can work, where you're not actually giving people cash back. The nice thing about the cash refunds is that we are automatically issuing the refunds on your behalf, no action required on your part. So when we're talking about marketing your event, so how do we actually get people to pick your event? So some of this is again, I like whiteboarding and writing down. If I'm talking to participants who have participated in my event, like I really like to talk to them afterwards. It's like, well, how did you hear about this event? Why did you pick this event? And a lot of people like to catch that on the front end, which there's nothing wrong with catching that on the front end. But asking people after the event, a lot of times in a one-on-one conversation, you can start finding information that you didn't know. So there could be a particular participant that's at your event who is just singing the praises of your event at their workplace or at their church or other gathering points, and you didn't even know that. So you may actually want to reach out to that participant after the event and thank them for the advocacy they've had about your event, and then potentially offer them like a free registration next year. So when we're looking at, like building a checklist for promoting your event, so there's calendars. So there's online calendars and race listings and stuff like that. So one of the most common ones is runningintheusa.com. We automatically list your event there, but there's plenty of other calendars that maybe we don't have automation to put those on. But also, go out and look in your community. Where do people in your community find events? And make sure that your event is listed there. So if there's like family calendars or things to do calendars in your community, put your event there. It takes a little bit of effort, but it's probably worth it because you really want your event to list and live as many places as possible. So we call this old school, but flyers, postcards, community connections. So if you have a good relationship with the local running store or local YMCA, any place where people are gathering, if they'll let you put a flyer up or put postcards out, it's not a bad idea because again, people need to see your event multiple times. The next one is Googling your event. So if you type in your event name and your website's not coming up, that's a problem. And you should definitely use RunSignup's website capabilities at that point. And then also just going and looking at what is out there about your event. Is there anything that you don't like? Is there things that you didn't realize are out there? Some of the other things to think about from a traditional advertising standpoint is radio and TV. They're actually more approachable than you might realize. I've even had some events that have done billboards. Spotify is a great one. So Spotify and Pandora have some locality gating, so it's kind of like building a circle around a market, and you can advertise in that market. And then earned media. So we talk a little bit about earned media. That is, if you have the ability to get in touch with the local newspaper, the local radio station, the local TV stations, and you can build a relationship with them, and they will lightly promote your event, that is gold. So that really helps. From a digital ad standpoint, Facebook is probably the most common place that people advertise, which includes Instagram, but we are starting to see some people testing out TikTok as well. Google is something that I would recommend if you have someone that you are able to work with who knows how to buy ads through Google. It is a little complex to figure out on your own. And then finally, probably the most obvious one is email marketing. So make sure that you're emailing current, previous, and prospective participants and lists that you have. So this is talking about the calendar. So on the right-hand side, this is a little sample of like running in the USA. There is a paid service called evvnt.com that they have a calendar distribution network. So what that is that allows you to have your event listed as many places as EVNVT connects with, and they have like thousands of event calendars that they are connected to. So community connections, I talked about this a little bit earlier. So if you have any sponsors of your event, if they'll let you put posters or postcards out or flyers, etc. If you work with running stores, local running clubs, schools and churches, other nonprofits who are partners of yours, attending local events, attending other race expos, and then we talked a little bit about earning that media through radio, TV, and newspapers. The next thing is building beautiful emails. So you really want to make sure that the color schemes and the branding and logos all are similar. And inside of the system of the RunSignup system, we make it very easy to keep that branding consistent. Try to add photos that would grab someone's attention. Include strong calls to action, such as time limited, limited quantities, price incentives, etc. You're trying to drive action within this email. You can see that in this example, we got sign up today, or limited quantities, things like that. People respond to that. So within the platform, we do have some automation that you can turn on. So our automated emails, I would highly recommend turning on incomplete registration emails. So this is someone starts registering but doesn't finish. If you're busy, I would recommend turning on price increases. So we can actually, if we can automate your price increase emails to go out. And then finally, if you have a complex event or it's a fundraising event, we do have registration follow-up emails. Those registration follow-up emails can be sent to people who have already registered, and they can be used in several different ways. One is if your event is dangerous or difficult, you can give some safety protocols. If your event is a fundraiser event, you can then tell people about, hey, here's your fundraising link and here's some best practices on fundraising. Or if you really want to push your referral program, you can use registration follow-ups. We do caution people, don't send too many emails. If they say, well, how many emails would you recommend? I recommend a 3 to 4 month promotional window for the average event. Our average event is around 450 people, and 4 promotional emails, start to finish. That's my general recommendation. So continuing engagement via email. One of the nice things in the system is that you can schedule emails to go out to participants, either past participants or current participants. You can explain to them the value of referrals. And again, you can include their unique link for referrals. You can also, if your event's already passed, you can cross-promote other events, and you can email purchasers who meet the first threshold to remind them the value of continuing to share, because if they get to like 8 referrals, we'll give you a full refund, etc. So I talked about this a little bit, is ReEngagement. So that's where the automated emails for incomplete registrations are very valuable. So what we have found in kind of studying this is that if you turn on our automated emails for incomplete registrations, and I generally set it to say 1 day after someone starts registering, just send it back out to them. I also do, like, I set a calendar date, which is like 2 days before the last day that someone can register. I have that turned on as well. And so we automatically go out and send those emails to people who started registering and didn't finish. And we scrub the list automatically as well for anyone who registers in the in-between time. About 2 to 3% of all sales can be directly attributed to those emails. A few other advanced tools is that we do have an email capture capability through RunSignup. So if someone's not ready to buy, we could capture their email address. So you could add them to your list. For advanced marketing capabilities, considering Facebook remarketing and Google remarketing, this means that you have to have tracking pixels installed in our platform to be able to do that. But that's a highly effective way to engage people who have come to your website but not purchased. So Johanna made this really nice visual here, and I think it is something to when you get these slides, this is definitely the slide to kind of sit there and stare at. Is think about your funnel. So we've got awareness. So we're doing our ads. We've got our race calendars. We've got our earned media, and also just kind of our reputation. And then we've got consideration. So they've done something. Now they're coming to our website. They're coming to our social media. And then their engagement. So they're opening our emails, they're looking at our newsletter, they're somehow maybe participating with our community sponsors, or if we have other events, they're engaging in those. And then conversion. So now they're in the process of buying. So is that because of discounts? Is that because today's the last day before the price goes up? Is it because it's a nice, quick, easy registration process? And then finally, the expansion of the funnel is team incentives that I talked about, or referrals. So, hey, I'm referring my friends. So think about, we're putting people through the funnel, and then at the bottom of the funnel, we're trying to get a little bit of value out of that bottom end of the funnel by getting people to talk about your event with friends and family, or inviting them to the team. So kind of our final tips here is, make sure you take some time. I mentioned that concept of a whiteboard or some sort of journal or something where you're writing down some of these ideas, because you're gonna have a lot of ideas. And then if you look to the right, make sure you keep it simple. So you're gonna probably come up with more ideas than you can implement, but that's good, because then you can kind of scratch through some of the ones that seem too difficult or too hard to explain. So you wanna be able to explain this to someone in 10 seconds. The next is remind. So I was talking about the concept of like 4 promotional emails. It does take quite a bit to get people to remember. The next thing, especially with referrals, is that referrals are typically driven by females. So factor that into your swag, rewards, and communications. Talk about your social sharing. So make sure that your social sharing, that the actual text and the images, is it uplifting? Is it fun looking? So make sure that you're actually looking at what people are socially sharing. Make it fun. So you saw some of the examples we have, the Dog Squad, the River Run Ambassadors, etc., where you give it a name, and then start early. So quite often, many events start building their wave up a little too late. It does take, in general, 3 to 4 months to kind of build this up. Large events are obviously doing it 6 months, 8 months out, or sometimes even 12 months out. So give yourself enough time to be successful. So that is everything for the presentation today. Steve, what questions do we have?
Yeah, hey Brian, we've been answering a lot on the chat here, asking about examples of videos that folks are using to market their events, both on social media and their event websites with RunSignup. We also talked about folks that are working with local race directors, and if it's valuable to use their email list to go out and promote their event by paying to be part of that e-newsletter or an exclusive e-blast.
It definitely could be. I would want to look at the, I would look at the price. So how much does it cost? How many people are they reaching? How clean is the list? And do you, like, have you received the email and were you impressed by it? So if you're buying email marketing, you do need to be a little skeptical, because if there is no relationship between you and that group, but if there is a relationship between that newsletter and the people that receive it, and there's an anticipation that they're going to get a special deal by being on this newsletter list, kind of think like Groupon, but if it's like a local race group, there can be a lot of value to that. But I would just make sure that I really understand, and also I would want to be on that list and see what kind of emails, if I weren't already on that list, I'd want to kind of see that before I would commit to it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think you hit that on the head as far as just asking a lot of questions, right? How recent is their data, and what kind of events are these folks, have they been participating in? Does it mirror your distance, or the type of activity? Is this a cycling list, and you're trying to promote a run, right? That wouldn't make a lot of sense. So the other question that came up was about how to market your fundraising, the fundraising aspect of your race.
So fundraising is kind of interesting. So some events are like exclusively fundraisers. Some are they have fundraising, but it's not the focus. If your event is exclusively focused on fundraising, meaning that's the primary goal, the event is kind of the culmination of this fundraising goal, is you really want to focus on the people who are fundraisers already. So what's really interesting about fundraising is that it falls into that whole 80-20 rule, is that many events, 80% of their fundraisers comes from sometimes significantly less than 20% of their fundraisers. So one of the ideas that I have seen successfully done is, if your event has team fundraising is kind of, if you don't do this, is really building team fundraising in. It supercharges it, because the team captains kind of become your point of connection, and you can do things like, something really nice is like doing a luncheon to launch your event and inviting the 20 team captains who, in total may have 200 fundraisers underneath, in total underneath them, because those 20 key contacts can drastically influence the outcome of your fundraising. And people love, something like where they feel recognized. And I've even had events where they're like, okay, let's go ahead and get everybody set up. And like at the end of the luncheon, or at the beginning, depending on how they set it up, people are actually setting up and we're signing up for the event. And it's a great way to kick things off. So my two recommendations would be, one is, if you're not already inviting your best fundraisers to some sort of kickoff event, and there's lots of different ways to do it. The luncheon is just an example. I would recommend that. And if you've never added in team fundraising, I would consider adding in team fundraising, because it falls in line with a lot of the marketing strategies that we've seen, is that teams are those connection points. So I would recommend doing one or both of those things.
That's great. And that the team fundraising came up as well in the chat. So I appreciate you discussing that too, Brian. So another question that came in from Victra, great presentation, Brian. Due to COVID, we haven't had our race since 2019. Do you have any comments for race directors just trying to get back into using RunSignup? Has anything changed on the website that we should be aware of as we restart or renew our pages?
Yeah, so we run into this a lot. There's definitely a lot that has changed within our platform. Like, the core of the platform is exactly the same. Probably my biggest recommendation would be is, if your website is in need of refurbishment, is I would highly consider, we offer completely for free. If you own the domain, map that domain to RunSignup, reach out to info@RunSignup or your account manager, and we can help you get that set up so now we can become your website. Because the biggest feature that is my favorite is our cover page. And so our cover page, the way I like to describe it is, when we used to promote events, and we even included it in the discussion today, we use posters. And so the cover page is a digital poster, and it allows you to build a rockstar website with limited capabilities such as mine. So like you can really make a real beautiful website without any meaningful web skills, and you can keep it up to date. And the other thing that's really important to think about, if you haven't had your event since 2019, is you do have a little bit of history, but I would almost approach it as if I was starting a new event, because you've lost quite a bit of momentum. And if you're thinking like, hey, we got to climb the mountain again, and if you happen to get momentum from your previous participants, your previous sponsors, I would consider that an after booster, because it's really hard to start an event. I've looked at the data, like when events are affected by like, fire, earthquakes, hurricanes, things like that, and they skip a year, the next year is their numbers are down because they had to cancel for obvious reasons. And so you had to cancel for obvious reasons as well. So I would really think of this as like starting over. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, you have an email list, you do have some reputation, but a lot of people are struggling right now because they're trying to like regain that momentum. And all the data says is that if you skip a year, you're going to lose some momentum. So sitting down with your committee saying like, okay, how many of our sponsors are committed? You know, how many of these groups that we've worked with in the past have we been able to get in touch with? And those are great, but approaching it as if it's a brand new event has been my recommendation.
That's great. Shelly's got a question about, she's has a very small race. If they don't have enough to do team fundraising, does RunSignup have individual fundraising options?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer team and individual fundraising. And the neat thing about team fundraising is that even with team fundraising, underneath the team, there's individuals. So every individual has their own page, and then they're connected to the team and connected to the team goal. So if Steve fundraises $100, I fundraise $100, and we're on the same team, our team has fundraised $200. We each have individually fundraised $100.
And here's a good one that's related, Brian, from Mary. She's asking about when you're doing team fundraising, how would you integrate it into an event that you also have a fee to register? So kind of those best practices on the registration fee, but also setting those goals for your team fundraisers and individual fundraisers.
So one of the neat incentives that we have built into the platform specifically for fundraising is if you fundraise, say, $100, and let's say your entry fee is $25. In our system, one of the incentive options you can offer is say, hey, if you fundraise $100, we'll actually refund you your $25 entry fee. So it's kind of incentive for them to go out and do that. I also would recommend considering connecting our Facebook fundraising, which allows people to not only fundraise through our platform, but also fundraise through Facebook as well. So those are some of the like structures that you can use to similar to referrals, where you're offering someone an incentive to go out and fundraise for your organization. We also have badges and milestones. So if they hit certain fundraising levels, you could potentially offer rewards. So, hey, if you fundraise $250, you get a hoodie, you know, et cetera. And those can actually be integrated into the badges and or milestones in the platform.
Right. Alma is asking about best practices for inclement weather alternatives. So what happens when you have to cancel, right, due to weather?
So if you do end up having to cancel due to weather, we do have our virtual platform, which would allow people to go out and participate on their own. You also may want to have something in your waiver and on your website about what happens in if you have a weather issue. So because sometimes people kind of are wondering what's going to happen, and especially if you've had weather issues in the past, you would want to kind of address that in the website. But I think going virtual and offering a virtual option is the first option, and then the second option would be giving people the opportunity to potentially participate again next year. And then lastly is that especially if it's a fundraising event and people go out and fundraise, many times people will say, oh, that's okay, I understand, and they'll let you kind of keep the funds, but you can't allow people to defer to the following year.
And I would just add too, Brian, I think it's helpful for folks to start with a hybrid option for their event. So, having a live and a virtual option to participate from the beginning, so that if you do have a weather-related issue or something COVID down the line, it's easy to pivot and push those folks over to the virtual, since they're already expecting that and you've already got that infrastructure in place. This is a great one, I think, because I think a lot of races are seeing this nationwide in terms of sort of consumer behavior with signing up for races. So Duana is asking, our registration is slow, and then you have to add on top of that, it's a new race for her. How or when will I know I should cancel and cut our losses?
So the specifics of some of those would be things that, so anytime that you're putting on a new event, I recommend to think about an event as a 3-year commitment, because it takes a lot of effort year one to get it off the ground. And events on their own are generally not profitable. Like the registrations that you get are generally just pass through, meaning you're spending all that money on the cost of the event, and your profit comes from sponsorship and or you know, if you have like a festival or something where like there's people could buy additional things after the event. So if you're thinking about canceling the event, it would be because you don't have sponsors. So if you have sponsors, the sponsor should allow you to get through year one, even if you have low participation numbers, so that you're building a foundation. So I kind of call it the crawl, walk, run philosophy. Year one, we're crawling. Year two, we're walking. Year three, we're running. And because each year you're going to do things hopefully a little bit better because you're a little bit more intelligent about like, oh, I didn't realize that that was going to be a problem. And so that would be my recommendation is go out and get some, you know, I'm sure you're trying to solicit sponsors, but if you don't have commitment from sponsors and it truly is going to be a money loser, then that's a little bit different situation. We are seeing people registering later for events than normal. We have seen, you know, quite a bit more registrations the last couple of weeks. I'm not really sure why that is, but it has been more of a trend in 2022 than it was certainly obviously in 2020, 2021. So that is something to consider. But in general, the way events work is they're driven by sponsorship, and registration is just, you know, dollars that you're using to buy stuff for participants.
Great. Well, I think that exhausts the questions we have in our chat here. Maybe just give a few more seconds here if anybody wants to have a last minute question. Overall, great participation from everybody.
Yeah, good questions. Again, we'll be sending out this recording pretty quickly, as well as the slides. So really appreciate everybody joining us today and putting in questions and things, and hopefully it was helpful. And we look forward to you guys joining us for our next webinar. Thank you.